Is sin a real thing, or is it a fallacy? How can we sin if we can only ever make one decision, if we can only ever act based off of our chemistry, conditioning, and level of understanding? We can only ever make one decision ever, and that's the decision we make. That's it. We can only ever make one decision. So how can we sin if we can only ever make one decision? And doesn't sin suppose judgment? Are we judging each other? Or are we having forgiveness? Or are we having unconditional love? How can we have sin if we have unconditional love? Jesus taught unconditional love. Jesus taught to give it all up to God, to the eternal present moment of God's love. That is complete surrender. How can we have sin if we have complete surrender and unconditional love? How can we have sin if we're just nature running off? If we're just karma running off? If we can only ever act based off of our chemistry, conditioning, and level of understanding, we can only ever make one decision ever. And it's not the wrong decision. It's the only decision we can ever make. So how can we judge ourselves and say that's sin? We can only ever do one thing. There is no shame. There is no guilt. There is no regret. That is a lower perspective. They want to keep us in this lower perspective because it keeps us trapped. They want to keep us in a lower perspective of sin because that supposes control. There is no control. Control is an illusion. There is only the cosmic unfolding. There is only nature running off. Control is a trap of the ego. What is expectation? Expectation is the ego vying for control. How do we have control when we can only ever make one decision? That's the only decision that we would ever make, and that's the only decision that we did make. So let's think about this from a higher perspective. How can there be a thing such as sin when we can only make one decision, A, B? We are not judging ourselves. We are loving ourselves and others unconditionally. What does the Tao Te Ching say? It says, stay in the center of the circle and watch all things unfold. Be the observer. If we are taking the perspective of being the observer and not identifying with the actor, sin supposes you're identifying with the actor, the ego. You're attached to the illusion. But we are not the actor. We are the loving observer. The ego wants us to be attached to the actor, to think we're in control, when we know control is an illusion. There is no control, because whatever happens was always going to happen. Why? Because it happens. I hope I didn't spin you in too much of a quagmire here. So stay in the center of the circle and watch all things unfold. That's all we really have to do, is be the observer and not be attached. Right? When we take this higher perspective, of we're just nature running off, we are the loving observer. We are God experiencing itself, observing itself. We are just watching the cosmic play unfold. That's all we're ever doing. When we think we're somebody, when we think we know, when we think we have control, that is what happens when we get caught up in the game. We get caught up in the ego. We get caught up in the illusion. We're attached. We need to break free from these attachments to see from higher perspectives. We need to stand in the center of the circle. Why? Because when we stand in the center of the circle, there's nowhere else to go. The ego can't play tricks on us when we're in the center of the circle. The ego cannot play any tricks on us. We cannot be attached to anything. We are merely the observer when they're in the center of the circle. We're watching all things take their course. We are not attached. We are not attached to outcomes. Being attached to outcomes is being caught in the illusion, because that supposes control. There is no control. Control is an illusion. It is part of the ego's game to try to keep us in lower perspectives. And when we are in lower perspectives, when we think we have control, we will never know the truth. If we are in lower perspectives, thinking we're somebody doing something, we will never know the truth. Because if we think we know, we will never be able to see anything else. I know nothing. I tell myself that every day. I know nothing. I try to observe everything. Everything is a practice in this life we're in this incarnation we're in this illusion we're in. What is the goal? That's why the goal is to stay present, because that is God, that is the divine. In the present moment, there is no judgment, there is no sin, there is no regret, there is no shame, there is only God experiencing itself. So let's take all this in and ask ourselves, do we think there's sin, or is sin something that is created to keep us in a trap? In a trap, thinking we have control when there is no control. Thinking we could ever possibly make any other decision than one we made, which is impossible. You cannot make a decision different than the one you made, because that's the one you made, that's the one we were always going to make, based off our chemistry, conditioning, and level understanding. That was the only decision we were ever going to make. So how can we judge ourselves? How can we feel shame? How can we feel guilt? How can we feel regret about the only decision we could have ever made from where we were at? We can't. It's part of the illusion. It's a trap of the ego. Sin is a trap of the ego, a trap of the illusion trying to hold us in lower perspectives, to keep us down, to keep us from seeing the truth. If we want to break free from this entire game, the illusion, what must we do? We must stand in the center of the circle and watch all things unfold. Be the observer. Be the loving observer. I am God's eternal love pouring forth. In the present moment, we are God observing itself. We are the divine. This is how we break free from all the traps of the ego, from all the attachments, from all the traps of the illusion. This is how we break free. And at the foundation of breaking free from all these traps is, of course, some of you who've been watching me a while may know where I'm going with this, presence and purification. Staying present, every second we stay present, you are expanding your perspective further and further, higher and higher. You are breaking free from the illusion. You are getting closer, if you are not already close to it, to the center of the circle. Every moment we practice presence, we are expanding our perspective, and we are getting closer to a divine union with God. And that is the ultimate goal. And purification is an important aspect in this, because everything is connected. Everything is all one. So we must purify the body to get balance and facilitate a state of peace, clear and calm the mind, to get into higher and more stronger states of presence. And this will expand our perspectives and allow us to see past all of these fallacies of judgment and sin and thinking we're in control. We're merely nature running off. We're actors in a play. The play has already been written. The game's already over, my friends. There's nothing left to do. No need to worry. No need to fret. No need to fear. No need to care. The game's over. The only thing there is to do is stay present in God's eternal love. I am God's eternal love pouring forth. Namaste.